Hey guys, it's me, EODGamerZ here. Now let's get into it. I promise you, by the end of this video, there will be at least one team that you definitely can play in. That's my promise with all these best teams videos for Miyabi. And let's start first things first off with telling you an overall brief. Because she specializes both in disorder and skills with crit, it makes for a very, very flexible DPS, can be playing into both teams, and you'll see that reflecting a lot in this whole entire team composition as well. Now, the best team out of all of them that I can think of, if you're talking about her real best teams, and we'll dive into more later on, her top pick for me is going to be Yanagi. Yanagi procs a lot of disorder, which helps Miyabi out a lot, and as well as the same time, their playstyles suit very, very well with each other. This is probably going to be her best in slot comrade, sub DPS, very, very law canon, right? One is like the deputy chief, one is the chief. I love how they put that in the game as well. For those of you who don't have Yanagi, don't worry, I'll tell you more about better team compositions for other members as well in a little bit. But let's talk first about if for those of you who put Yanagi and have both of them together, or maybe plan to even pull in a rerun. The premium team, very expensive, is probably going to be Caesar, who benefits both of them because she buffs a lot of attack. She gives them a massive shield to help them sustain and do their whole entire combos without interruption. And Caesar at the same time also offers a bit more impact percentage to stun enemies somewhat. I think Caesar is probably going to be really, really comfy in this slot over here for those of you who have her. Miyabi's additional ability is proc based on support or same faction. So even though there is no support here, you have Yanagi who helps Miyabi proc her same faction very nicely as well. In terms of the pivot slot, you can have another character. For those of you who do not have Caesar, you can go down the more of a Yanagi focus route, which is going to be a character like Rina, which can help you gap close, buff your electric damage, as well as shred enemy defenses here and there. If you have M1, Rina is going to be a lot better to help your rotations. Otherwise, Rina is a pretty good proxy for those of you who don't have Caesar, who I know is a little bit expensive to get. Now, this is the top pick. Let's go on into more team compositions, and let's first get away from disorder and talk about traditional crit that probably a lot of more people have characters built for and are a little bit more familiar. The two stun characters that are the best in slot for Miyabi is probably going to be Lighter as top pick, and then Lycan as like second place quite well. Lighter buffs a lot of ice damage bonus and does massive amounts of ice rest shred, offers you a lot of stunning potential as well to help your main DPS go. But he is very expensive. He's just recently on a banner. Lycan is a very good alternative with a lot of ice rest shred as well on him with when he holds his EX special attack. Generally a pretty good substitute as well. I think he's really, really solid for those of you who don't have a character like Lighter. But not to worry, there's also another alternative for those of you who might not have these characters. But let's talk about the pivot slot first, who rounds up their teams. For those of you who have Lycan and maybe don't have Lighter, so Kaku, this is like literally the CBT one way back in 2022 when we first played Miyabi team compositions, and until today, it's very nice that they still made it very relevant. This team composition still works quite well. Lycan, Sokaku, as well as Miyabi to help you proc a lot more ice damage bonus on your characters as well. Miyabi is going to really love this team, and it's a slightly budget as long as you have Lycan. Maybe if you get your 300 pulls, you can use it to pick up Lycan if you are really a Miyabi main and don't have Lighter in for these kind of compositions. Alternatives, if you are at the Lighter team composition, if you have Lighter, I think Lucy is going to be really good to not only proc Miyabi's additional ability, but you also can proc Lighter's additional ability for being same faction as well. So super solid. Lucy's long-term attack buffing, very, very nice. Good gap close also with her long-range shots. The alternative, if you don't have any of these characters, one of these four characters, probably will be a generalistic character like Caesar, who can be mainly slotted in like, you can probably replace one of these two stun characters. To replace the pivot slot would mean that you are likely going to miss out on a lot of damage potential for a character like Miyabi, because Miyabi does want that support or same faction. If you put her in the support slot, you likely won't be able to proc her additional ability. So I prefer to tend towards the pair slot in terms of the second combo, because Caesar can act as a pseudo stun. Now, back to like one part crit. Now let's go back to the other section, which is going to be your disorder based teams. For those of you who do not have Yanagi, which we talked about first, the other great option that you have available is Bernice. This is really solid. Unfortunately for us, Hoiverse hasn't released too many A rank disorder units, so we have to make do a lot with Bernice right now in the game and Yanagi, who are really, really expensive. For those of you who are wondering, I don't think Jane Doe is going to be very, very useful as a same combo pair. Miyabi generally prefers to work well with a little bit more sub DPS or quick swap kind of style because she does want a little bit more field time, whereas a character like Jane Doe is relatively off field. Characters like Grace is also quite decent if you can, and you don't have Yanagi. These are like decent alternatives as well if you just wanted to proc the disorder, since Grace and Miyabi are of differing elements, but very important, you do need a support in the last slot over here so that you can help prop everyone's ability. If you are running Bernice, would be quite nice if you can run a character like Lucy. Even Nicole is also quite decent too. If you're running Grace or Rina, I think Grace or Yanagi, Rina is probably a pretty good alternative depending on the angle that you are going for. Once the Hoyoverse adds in more disorder characters, you will start to see this roster fill up, and the best part is, because Miyabi scales so well with a support character, who knows, maybe upcoming we're going to have a support S-rank character and then she's going to get massively bumped. But for now, these are the team compositions that I think work really well. Some of you may be looking at characters. What about Seth EOD? You didn't even talk about him at all. He buffs and helps disorder. What about Ting Yi? These characters are great as well for stun. I think all of them are okay and you can fit them in respective comps if you're looking for them. But for now, I want to talk about the new player teams, and this is to help out, and my promise to every single player in the game that there will be a team for each and every one of you. For the new player teams in Zenless Zone 0, you have good A-rank supports, and in fact, I think this is probably one of the healthiest characters to be a free-to-play and a new player. If you are joining right now in the version 1.4, be really glad, because this is super solid team competitions. You can go with any of these three supports. If you start off with Nicole and you want to stick with Nicole, it's decent as well, because Miyabi's additional ability procs with a support character, so you can work really nicely. But out of all of them, I think the one that I like the most probably will be Lucy, because it gives her team composition, makes it much more varied. So Kaku is like a direct support to Miyabi. It's not super versatile because if you're a new player, you can't really swap Sokaku out later on if you want to rotate your team compositions. That's one of the key downsides and things that we need to consider when you are a slightly newer player. Last but not least, of course, in the pivot slot, the three characters that are A ranks that I think are really useful is going to be Anbi Demara, Piper, as well as Seth. You have your stun characters who is going traditional crit in the top road. So if you really like the normal crit stuff, you don't want to dive too much in disorder yet, you want to understand the mechanics and fighting style, Anbi is going to be great for that. For a stun crit, typical crit Miyabi kind of playstyle. For those of you a bit more adventurous, new players who want to get ventured into the disorder playstyle, once you pull a Piper, once you get Piper, she's going to be really fun to play. You can play like a Piper together with Lucy and Miyabi combo, will be quite fun. If you're playing Anbi, you can go around with like a Nicole, or even if you like Anbi, you can run like Sokaku. It's also quite fine even though you don't have electric or same faction to prop Anbi. Is not super critical since the one that you care about the most is Miyabi doing the damage. Seth is a good hybrid between both of them, an A rank unit that is quite solid. He buffs anomaly proficiency to help Miyabi do a little bit more damage. At the same time, he offers you some sort of electric, so you might prop disorder from time to time. At the same time, he also gives you a good shield, so for those of you who are trying to get into the mechanics of the game, will offer you a lot more safety net for you to get started. And if you found this video helpful, we're going to be doing one on Harumasa, who's going to be free as well. Stay tuned on the channel. Otherwise, check out these two other videos, which I think you might be interested in as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.